If not, we will move on into Continuum Labs.
On Friday, the board was mailed what we're calling a year-end review in regards to Continuum Labs. As you know, last month we stated that their contract was up on September 30th for year 2 of the 3-year agreement. Basically, what we've compiled for you is, as you know, Mr. Vaughn comes every month and makes a presentation to the board. What we've done is taken those presentations and basically compiled them into one document. You are acknowledging his reports that he gives every month. We're just putting it in one document for you to look for. So before I start, I'm going to Mr. Vaughn give you a couple slides of update from his perspective, and then I'll go into the review of the document.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, welcome. Your dedication and sacrifice is not missed on this town, I know it. Thank you for that. Welcome to Tech River. It's kind of cool. I know, Donald, you said you used to work here for a while. Sorry, but we hunted down all baby blue and tried to kill it as much as possible.
Okay, that's good. That's a good thing.
I might have some reservations of the paint color we picked out downstairs, but it's better on the 2-inch square than maybe the entire wall. But other than that, what a beautiful building. And the reason I talk about the building is it really symbolizes why you're doing what you're doing with this fund. It is that you're trying to create something of value. And so when you create something of value, you have to look at the summation of multiple parts in doing so. We spend a significant amount of our staff's time and energy being the principal influence on how and what walls came down, what parts were used, and what the layout would be in a multi-tenancy environment. You'll see that if any doors are locked, that's a good thing. We have state-of-the-art access control, which is critical, at least to us as a tenant, because we need to be HIPAA certified. And as you know, part of what Continuum does is it collects all records from all providers, and it comes to the data center here downstairs, and it goes to our CSRs and concierge to the other room. And so we need to have a certain level of compliance. We can make arrangements for any visitations, provided that no patient information is accessible if you'd like to see the Continuum space, but otherwise peek in any way you can, or get someone to chaperone you, but recognize that hundreds of patients' files are downstairs, thousands of users are on the platform, and all that's coming through the data center here. As you know, we relocated, another tenant moved in a few months ago. The rack of data is here. It is representing a technology catalyst. It is bringing people here into one place where we can cohabitate and share ideas and energy. So I hope that you enjoy the space. It was dark for a while. And as I was sitting here, I remember that I'd be sitting on a blue wall right now on a cardboard box kind of thing, and that this was not what you think it could be, but it is what I think is a great, great space. And so I think that from an IDA investment, it was certainly a great investment. And any technology company that could come here and feel embraced by the population would feel that this is a superior space to be in. So I'd like to bring you up to date on what we're doing. It's just a few short slides. I know that your time is valuable, and we're almost at the end of the morning hour. It really is about bringing it together. When you think about the award and spending $7.25 million, you really have technology on one side, and you really have people on the other. About 40% of all of our jobs are now already 38% and change, I believe. That number continues to rise. We hired 5 new people last month. The reason that we've not hired more is that we don't have the work to hire, and we have shifted as much resources to stay up to date with the work that we have brought in, but the rest of our resources have been spent on sales and marketing at a national level. I'll get to that. But the 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the left-hand side talks about the processes that we've gone through to build the asset. We really had to build it, we had to test it, we had to market it, and now we're selling it. And that really is a process, and in software, that is a multi-year process. On the right-hand side, we started almost a year ago, November 5th, that we started bringing jobs to here. We not only recruited them, we defined what they would be, we recruited, we trained them, we mentored them, We figured out what we think the special sauce would be in terms of the right number of people, in terms of QAs, some developers, and a lot of CSRs, and how they work synergistically together. And you recognize that number 4, it's not just jobs, it's careers. If you are trained in healthcare technology, you will not go unemployed. As healthcare continues to grow and grow with the demands of this country, it is up to a $3 trillion spend. And so having experience in this really does create careers, not just jobs. These dots on the left-hand side represent places where we have been in trade shows or formal multiple day meetings. So from Maine to New York to Philadelphia and out into California and even in the Tampa Bay area. You recognize that those are all things that we said we were going to do several months ago to focus all our attention in sales and marketing to bring jobs to Hardie. Recognize that all the work that we're doing out there is to try to bring work to a piece of software whose principal inputters and customer support is here in Hardie County. And so we believe that technology and new ideas are bringing jobs to Hardie. In respects to confidentiality and privacy, and the reason, and this is from a competitive nature, these are actual organizations that we're meeting with. I have stripped off the name to protect the privacy, but these are real deals. So we are working with a national payer, a multi-billion-dollar company who have been through multiple meetings, who are now in the proposal phase. This proposal phase is of significant value and would require a significant new increase in jobs here in Hardie to take on what would be thousands of new lives in terms of the Tampa Bay area. We are working with 2 specialty hospitals and have gone through multiple meetings with them and have had the approval from each of their different departments to go to the stage of request for proposal. We have been in discussions with the telecom. Many telecoms are getting into healthcare. Qualcomm is one of them. They have since acquired Healthy Circles, which is really us without the labor component. So many, Comcast just hired a chief medical officer. They're one of the largest cable providers in the nation. And so when you look at them getting into healthcare, is that they're trying to leverage their connectivity to homes and businesses to get the readings on data that patients and businesses for either health or disease are trying to feed back to a central system. So whether you step on a scale or whatever, telecoms would like to be the data that you're using to get that back into a family health record. We have gone out to California, and some of you may know we were a featured speaker and panelist in Global Genes, as well as we were a featured speaker and won the competition in the Codathon at Health 2.0. And in these meetings, which are primarily business-to-business environments, we were requested by International Patient Registry that what their job is to do is to get records and then track their diseases so that pharmaceutical companies can identify them for potential studies. And what that means is they need their records. What organization do you know that will get all the patient records, all the visits, and put it into one record that can be shared? One. That's CareSync. And so they were very, very pleased to say, could they embed a purchase button inside their software and registries to get their records to put it in. Then we had a major pharmaceutical company who said, we have 20 drugs plus in the market, and we're always needing new indications. Some of them are rare disease classification. We need to be able to track that data. And so these are all meetings that have happened within the last 4 weeks. And so when you look at the fact that we said that we were going to spend a new concerted effort and ramp up, if you will, in terms of operations for Morrison sales and marketing, this is what we've done in 90 days. And it's been pretty impressive. As well as, lastly, employer benefits. One of the neat things that's going on is that 7 times more expensive to an employer is presenteeism, being there but not there, than absenteeism. And so organizations who are now trying to become self-insured, trying to sort of escape the penalties for Obamacare and so forth, are really looking at how they can self-administer plans. Having the family health record, there's lots of documentation to support the fact that there's a solid return on investment on care teams being able to participate in the care of employees. And employees who are burdened with other kids, parents, and so forth who are distracted from work is a cost in productivity. So we have been working with a large national company to see if we could be picked up in their benefits catalog for employers. We still strongly believe and see the fruits of a partnership in technology. We see the opportunity in healthcare, and we know that we're producing jobs. We have, as I've said, a call center and concierge services below. We're working with Heartland Workforce. We continue to do. We're asking them to look over into a 3-year plan on what would be the metrics behind how fast we could hire people here based upon the demographics and some of the infrastructure. What is our sort of maximum amount of charts to produce downstairs based upon the population demographics here. And so we continue to utilize that local resource. And we believe that this is certainly a payoff on your investment, is that we are producing jobs here. We're also catalyzing other technology companies to say, yes, they can come here and it's a friendly environment to behave, and that the building provides the infrastructure they need. And so we are pleased to see that we have seen a lot of progress, certainly after our assignment a little less than a year ago. And I think we've come a long way. So a couple of things based upon some of the information that was shared in the packet. We welcome an audit. We have, we want anyone to the protocol is in place to see that we've been good stewards of the money and that we've used it in a way and in a manner that I have presented to you in the monthly draws, to verify things like number of employees, if that is a critical component. I have also made significant contribution, and I had actually brought to Hardy deposit tickets and bank statements of the money I put into this project to sit there and say that it is significant. The problem is if I give this over to anyone, it ends up on Facebook before I even make it back to Tampa. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because what I said that we would be doing is that we would be raising external investment. And what other investors want to know is what's the rules to be involved in any investment. I can't frankly tell them. I can say that we have 288075. I can say that we can have private-public partnership. We have been on ongoing negotiations with organizations like investment firms and VCs. I have sent them our agreement and say that we believe that this is how we perform on this agreement. People are looking for the hard facts around what it is to perform on an agreement. You took a long time in the vote that preceded my meeting to go over the agreement on the sale of a piece of property. Imagine that we are out raising $10 million, the number of questions they have. And so I want to not set any precedents about privacy that they may feel that they would have to follow suit if I did something. But this document, more than happy to hand it over to an auditor. And this document is going to sit there and show that there has been significant, well over 7 figures of my own personal money and guarantees and debt in this project. Lastly, I'll finish this up. I said that I would take care of the over and above on what we would be doing in sales and marketing. You have a draw request for $299 and change in front of you. I spent $362. So last month, remember, we get reimbursed for a draw. We don't take it ahead of time. So the money I put in, the money we've spent on that, plus the other $62,000 we spent to wrap out sales and marketing on a national level, I continue to personally have a lot of skin in the game. I am committed to the project. The only thing I would say is that yes, I would prefer it would have gone a little faster. And yeah, I would prefer that some of the learning points and landmines that we didn't know, maybe we wouldn't have stepped on them. But I believe that we're creating careers here. And I believe that it's what you really wanted to happen was an organization to come in and create a business that would sustain jobs and revenue. And so as we plan for the future, we're continuing to look at external development for external investors. We want to protect them in terms of privacy, in terms of what they may personally feel like they would have to show of their own finances based upon being an investor. And then lastly, certainly of the options that were presented as part of Casey's and recommendations of Mr. Lambert's, is certainly option 2 is the one that we can participate in. Options 1 and 3 are not really afforded to us as options. Thank you.
So turning over to the review report that you guys have, I just did provide an overview that starting at the beginning when the original contract was signed with Lexing Technologies. That partnership was created to develop the Blue Water application and the creation of a technology park. And it was an initial investment of approximately $2.5 million with a 3-year cumulative investment of $7.25. The total that was dispersed to LifeSync Technologies was $2,557,852. As you know, at the end of last year, Continuum did an asset purchase agreement with LifeSync Technologies, and Continuum assumed their obligations. The original request that Continuum made in September, I believe, September of last year, was $3.6 million. It was recommended by the director to approve $3 million to hold that $600,000 in reserve. But on July 11th of this year, the $600,000 was appropriated to Continuum. As of October 15th, the IDA has dispersed to Continuum $3,701,266.86. So the remaining balance from that original $7.25 million 3-year commitment is $990,881.14. Going to the deliverable assessment, basically we've added on to what we provided for the 6-month review several months ago when we did that as the status of the deliverables. Deliverable number 1 was to develop the web-based solution. Originally going into this, it was the Blue Water application. When Travis came on, there was focus on developing several software applications, with their main focus being on CareSync. Dashes, Scoutware, some other programs such as that were also included. However, as they moved forward, and as you can see on, as they moved forward in May of this year, they decided and made the promise to this board to focus all of their efforts onto CareSync specifically. And so they pulled back on Dashes and Scoutware and the other programs that they've been working on, and just decided to focus all of their efforts specifically on that one product. On April 26th of this year, CareSync General Web and Mobile release took place. They actually did the release here at Relay for Life in Hardee County. Several releases and updates have been done to the web version and the mobile version. And as he just said in his presentation, upper management is continuing to pursue those commercial partnerships and enterprise partnerships. Deliverable number 2 focused on the development of the technology center, technology park. As he explained, they did assist in the design of this building and really took a leadership role into what specifics of the tech companies that we were trying to recruit were going to be looking for when they were doing that initial investment. They did some fiber connectivity costs and estimates as to what needs were for that aspect. They did aid in the renovation, as we said, and they also have developed and maintained a Tech River Technology Park website. I apologize, it's highlighted classes. I didn't have that information prior to the report being sent out, but they have been offering classes here at Tech River University. They have offered a total of 14 classes. However, they have taught 6 courses. The cancellations were due to lack of enrollment in the classes or involvement from the public to attend the classes. The classes that they have taught here have included communication strategies, creative thinking and innovation, social media privacy settings, promoting business online, introduction to program, and social media networking. So they're continuing to pursue those classes and offer them as we move on. Deliverable number 3, focused on making the investment opportunities within Hardee County, specific to federal rules and regulations. That has been postponed as of this time, strictly because they're really trying to focus on getting CareSync out there and selling that product. Deliverable 4.4 was to recruit additional technology companies to co-locate within the technology center. When we came to you last time, we said that Rapid Technical Services and Rapid Systems had plans to move in here. As of September, Rapid Technical Services has relocated, and as Travis said, their servers are located here as well. They've moved their place of business here. Rapid Systems has not yet relocated, but still has every intention to do so. Deliverable number 5, continue to monitor the market changes and opportunities related to data center development. The data vault has been installed, rack space is available, and as I said, Rapid Technical Services has relocated their servers here as well. And Travis did make this statement, continues to market and promote the Tech River Data Center to new tenants and to other organizations outside of Hardee County. Recent expansion and ongoing engineering for VoIP, security access, secure internet faxing, and SMS, along with a planned multi-terabyte storage array, are planned for installation in the next 30 days. Those are what their future plans are in their continuing development of the actual data center in Tech River. Deliverable number 6 was to adhere to hiring practices that provide and prioritize employment opportunities to suitable Hardee County workers. He touched on a little bit in his presentation, but without exception, they have used Heartland Workforce for all of their hires today. Recognize, support, and effectuate the facilitation of job creation and economic diversity. Again, they have 15 employees currently within this, within Continuum, Tech River. But I would just like to clarify that is coming from Travis. I'm trusting him that that information is correct. I have not verified that information strictly because it's been the intent of the board repeatedly that we would not be getting into employee records and looking at that to make those public records. So again, that's something that Travis has provided me with, but I have not verified and looked at any employee records to see those numbers. The next deliverable was to provide a draw request by the 30th of each month. And the first draw that was requested was for $355,000 bridge funding until the contract negotiations were made. They did provide a reconciliation of that bridge funding, and then from then on out, regular draw requests have been received and provided each month, as you guys know, because you receive them every month. And then the last deliverable was to provide regularly scheduled monthly meetings. His contract was awarded in October of last year, and the reports have been given every month, starting in November of last year until present. So that's just kind of an overview, as I said, of the reports that Travis has made each month, kind of compiling into all one document. The last part of the review was 3 recommendations that we had tossed out for board discussion and for direction as to how to proceed with year 3. Travis obviously has reviewed those and said that his option that he would choose would be option number 3. But just quickly, but just to go over the recommendations, each recommendation does encompass the audit and is requesting an audit to be performed on the funding thus far. But recommendation number 1 was to not only have the audit, but to continue funding based on a match provided by Continuum for that funding. So if we were to award the entire $990,000, that a match of $990,000 be provided by Continuum. The second recommendation was, again, up to the audit, but it was to continue disbursements in the form of a note or loan accompanied with reasonable collateral. That Travis would need to provide an acceptable terms to the board. When the audit comes back, assuming that the audit is clear and after discussion is had by the board, then that note or loan, however, whatever the terms are, discussion could be held to take that note and turn it back into the form of a grant at that point in time, if the audit came back to the satisfaction of the board. And then the last recommendation was to do the audit, but postpone any further funding until the audit came back to the board and they had discussion on that. I can tell you that we've been told by Larson Allen that the audit would take approximately 90 to 120 days to complete. Correct. And I'll let Bill explain more about the audit because he's been in contact with the auditors more so. But that is my report for the year end and where they stand on deliverables. I'll be glad to answer any questions as well, Mr. Bond, that any of you may have before we proceed with discussion.
Well, I don't understand what this is about and what we're supposed to do with this. Are we here to vote to expand this thing for another $3 or $4 million for another year, or what are we supposed to do with this thing? Because I have a lot of questions about this.
Okay, this report was generated by your request specifically. You
Okay.
asked me to provide a
Okay.
report where
Uh-huh.
they stood with each of the deliverables.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I did.
Okay,
Basically, we are at the beginning of year 3 in a 3-year commitment with Continuum.
that's what I'm,
So the entire funded amount was agreed upon at $7.25 million. What we're discussing today is the only funding that's left out of that original $7.25 million is the $990,000. You've already appropriated that in your budget. It has already been assumed to Continuum. But basically what the discussion needs to be had is how you want to proceed with the release of those funds to Continuum.
okay, so what you're saying is, the only thing that's involved in this is that 900,000.
Yes, sir.
It's not anything to do with from there on.
No, sir.
Okay, one of the questions I've got is, who made the decision that there's only 3 recommendations? I mean, every one of these recommendations is in some way approve it.
But.
Well,
I mean,
why if they're a 50-50 match or a 25-75 match, or maybe not funded at all?
That is one of the options. Again, they're just recommendations for you guys to take up and debate.
Where in here is under the 3 options is not funded at all?
I mean, the option number 3.
It says postpone the funding. It don't say not do the funding.
Until an audit is complete.
What's that bell for?
That's your doubt.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
It is to.
Oh, no.
postpone
I've got
the
a
funding until
lot
the
of
audit
damn
is
questions
complete.
about this.
Okay, let me finish and answer
Think
your
number 2 why.
questions. These are simply 3 recommendations that were provided. You are not bound by any of these recommendations. You can do a combination of the 3, you can do one, you can do something totally different.
Well-
That's your purview of the board.
Well, it bothers me that who come up with these 3, every one of them has got some mechanism in there to fund it.
Okay?
And there's no mechanism in here to do a 50-50 match or a 25-75 match.
That is not correct.
All right, show me.
The third one says to order an audit and postpone funding until completion of the audit and further direction by the IDA. That is not a continuation of funding.
Well, I disagree with you. That's your opinion. This is my
Well, the
opinion.
intention, I can tell you.
And
the
there's
intention-
nothing in here that says the option
Do
is
you
not
have-
to fund
do
it
you
at
have-
all.
Do you have prima facie evidence to discontinue funding without doing an audit?
What is an audit going to tell us?
Well,
I got the floor right now. All an audit is going to do is tell you that we give them $1 million and they got receipts for $1 million. That audit is not going to tell you that we're paying for 9 coders in Tampa if there really is 9 coders in Tampa. If there's 20 mentors, if we're paying for 20 mentors in Tampa, how do we know there's 20 mentors? Maybe there's only 8, but we're paying for 20. An audit is not going to tell you that.
how do you know that?
Well,
Because it's not going to name names, or it's not going, who have we got that goes over there and
I can
actually
tell
sees
you,
these
I can
things?
tell you, Mr. Samuels, that I have had that exact discussion with the auditors.
Okay, auditors went over and saw these people?
No, I have
that's
had that discussion with them as to how we would go about doing this procedure. How far, what detail, what latitude we have, and they're working on that document. It's not simply
Well-
looking at a set of books. We are talking about compliance with a contract. We're talking about going into as much detail as we can. There have been numerous allegations about what has and has not occurred with this company over the last 2 years. And it would be my intention with this audit to either prove or disprove every allegation that's ever been made. Why wouldn't we want to do that?
Why waste the money? How much is it going to cost?
I can't answer
How much is it going to cost?
Who knows? Yeah, I don't.
Well, I hope they did a better job than they did with Rapid
Are you
Systems.
saying you don't want to do an audit?
I'm saying I don't want to fund it at all. It's not on this list.
Just because it's not on the list doesn't mean that that's not an
I
option.
mean, why should we spend the money on an audit? That money can be spent, listen,
You have that prerogative.
it's not on the list. Somebody made up this list.
Okay,
and
okay.
decided-
We will add to the list. We will add to the list discontinuing funding. Put a 4th bullet. It's fine with me,
Thank you.
but I still think we should do an audit.
Why? It's not going to prove nothing.
Okay. you're gonna be on record saying you don't want an audit,
I'm on record to say that I think that this needs to come to a halt.
with or without an audit.
Well, you can do an audit if you, we put in there, do not
Well, the
do not
third-
fund and do an audit.
The
I'll
third
go along
bullet is
with
do an
that.
audit and do not fund. That is the third one.
That's the third option.
Well, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that's what that's saying. I don't agree.
Okay.
And I'm telling you, I don't know, you know, this, what we're fixing to do at that Commerce Park is go across the river or the creek, whatever it is. This money could be spent out there to put infrastructure in there.
We're not gonna be short of it.
And let me tell you something else. We're getting very close to spending 25% of our $40 million for Mosaic on one company that I don't think is really gonna make it. 25% of $40 million. That is way out of line, in my opinion. That we could have done a lot better. $10 million could build probably 7 spec buildings,
Okay.
okay? So anyway, if we want to go through this whole thing, I got a lot more I want to talk about.
What did our original agreement say where we already agreed to fund up to the 7 point, right? We just are finishing the
We
second
made-
year of a 3-year agreement that we voted on,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. The funding has
So the
actually
time,
occurred.
he has not surpassed the time of the original agreement that we approved.
We're just now ending or beginning the third year.
Okay.
This is the first complete fiscal period that we have had with Continuum. I feel like that, to be prudent, we should have an audit of Continuum. They've finished 1 year. Whether you continue funding or not, we can't just walk away from it and not do an audit. It has to be done. But again, the debate at some point is going to come back to whether or not you call it an audit. It is compliance with a contract. It is both subjective and objective. There's ways to count the dollars, there's ways to look at where they went, but there really is no way to count whether or not it's meaningful, subjective economic development, and whether or not these jobs are going to be leveraged into some multiplier effect in this community. Those are things, that's why this job is so hard. That's why sitting on this board is so contentious.
Well, if anybody on this board would not put their money in this project, then they shouldn't vote to continue it. I'm telling you right now. If I wouldn't take my personal money and put in this project, then you should not vote to continue it with the public's money. That's what I'm saying.
That's fair.
And these deliverables, there is absolutely no substance in these deliverables. Consult and assist, assist and aid. Hell, I could do that and I'll do it for nothing.
Donald, have you gone online and looked at their product
No.
to see that they do have a product?
Well, I know what my wife got for nothing from Florida Cancer Institute, and I can go in there with a password and see everything, every report, every doctor's that's done to her since the day one.
At the center, at that.
At Florida,
Yeah.
on the internet.
But, I mean, I have gone and used this product. I came out here, I let them show it to me. I thought they were calling all board members to try to get you to come out here and look at the product.
They did that.
Okay.
But my wife already had this and I knew what it was. I didn't need anything else.
But this compiles all of your medical records from everywhere, not just one affiliate.
I understand that.
Okay.
But can I respond back to you, Donald?
Sure, yeah, sure you can respond.
I think it's important for this record today to do a little recapture of exactly how we got to this set of circumstances here. If you recall, you were not on the IDA when, I
Right.
think you were on the EDC.
Right. I think I was just there observing.
When we
first started.
started this project, or when we got the first distribution of the Mosaic Agreement money, we really felt like the fairest, most equitable way to infuse this money into the community was with a grant process. So we readily acknowledge that we may or may not have success, and we may or may not have problems with this grant process.
Agreed.
And we started a grant process. Applications were sought, they were made, a presentation was made. You recall the presentation.
Yes.
We've discussed this before.
Yes.
You too know, at the time of the presentation, we all felt like this project had great potential for the future of Hardy
Yes.
County.
Yes.
And we agreed to move down the road of this project.
Yes.
And here we are 2 years into it today with some changes. We've made some twists and we've made some turns. Blue Water, the assets of Blue Water were assumed by Continuum. Mr. Bond has continued to work with Continuum or to develop Continuum for the past year. We're at the end of year 2 with $6.25 million worth of funding into this project.
Right.
The best laid plans of mice and men do not necessarily time out the way you would expect them to time out. We're simply saying, hit the pause button on continuing to do the grant money. Make some other provision so that the project is not interrupted, so that it can continue to be developed. Do what is rational and do what is prudent, and do an audit, whatever it's called. I'm arguing with the auditors because our contract says we can do an audit, and they're saying that it has to be an agreed to set of procedures, and I just told them, whatever you have to do to answer any and all allegations related to this project, to turn everything inside out and upside down, within the confines of the statute, we are willing to do. Both sides want to do that. And all I can ask you today is to at least consider doing the audit. And if you can contemplate some way to keep the project going, because we made an honorable commitment to this man or his group 2 years ago, keep it alive. But keep it alive by keeping them on the hook. And if that is not good business, I don't know what else to say to you.
How much is enough?
If you're saying that you want to just cut your losses and walk, then that is your prerogative. You move to do that, you get a second, a plurality of the vote, and we will figure out how to unwind it. But we're still going to need an audit.
To do that at this point, my feeling is if we did that at this point and we don't follow through on our obligation, what have we done with our money at that point if we don't try to see this through with at least what we committed? We may have wasted all that money, where all he's asking us to do at this point is to do the audit, help him keep going. He's not asking for anything additional at this point. I personally like number 2 here. If I was working it, I mean, I know it's a lot of money, but it is our
Yes, it is.
largest investment. And if we throw up our hands right now, when he's just asking us to follow through on what, and I'm like Donald as far as I was not on the IDA board at the time all of this came down. I'm new to the IDA also. But I trust those that were on the IDA committee that they had a vision here. They believed in this plan. I heard the plan proposed as an EDC member. And I don't want us to just all of a sudden throw up our hands and say, well, we're not going to follow through on our obligation. I believe we should at least do the audit and try to keep it going. They're so close to being able to sell this product or get that additional funding that they need.
We've been close for a year.
And that's just my thoughts on it. I've used the product. I intend to put all my family on that product. I think it'll be the wave of the future as far as healthcare. It's the best product out there.
Are you paying for it?
Not at this moment, no. But I will. I have to pay to obtain my records, and I will.
Why isn't one of these options that if we continue paying them monthly for the 900,000, that has to be approved each month? Right now, we don't get to approve this draw. It's just set in stone that they get it no matter what. Why don't it be in there that under number 2 there, that we have to approve this draw every month?
Well, I think that the simple economics with any project that we would do is, I'm not sure if someone didn't know what they could expect to budget, how they could run their business. I mean, if I didn't know how much I could.
Well, that's the same chance we're taking as a board, that they're gonna make it or not make it. I mean, we're saying we're gonna give you $900,000 free and clear, and you know, whether you make it or not make it.
Well, I don't think that anybody's proffering that we're giving them anything free and clear. I mean.
Sure we are, we have for 2 years now.
Well, we've.
Well, hey, look, we have funded their toilet paper, we have funded their pens and pencils, we've funded a flight every so often from Baltimore for a woman to come down here that's supposed to be doing marketing, paying bills for her, over and over and over and over. I mean, there is 100% funding that we're doing with this board. We're paying for the grass to be cut. We're paying everything. At some point, this has got to stop.
Donald, you do understand this is our building. This is not their building. So the
Yeah,
maintenance-
are they paying rent on it or a lease on it? No, they're not.
Are any of the other tenants?
Well, in so many months, Rapid will. That's the agreement we got.
So
We
the-
voted on that.
But the point of some of those arguments that you bring up, we would be expected to maintenance. Do you want the
Well-
IDA staff to bring their toilet paper to work? I mean, this
No,
is our
no, but I
facility.
think that there should be a lease for this building for them, and they
Well,
should
we-
pay it, and we
we-
take that money.
I
but we don't buy
understand
their
that
toilet
We
paper.
had that debate
IDA,
months ago.
the IDA board works for us. Yeah, we take care of them.
But we had that debate as far as how we
I
would.
know we
how
had
we
that
would do
debate,
this.
and you know, we might as well just give them the $40 million and just do away with everything else. Let's just go ahead and make a motion to give Continuum Labs the rest of the $40 million that we're gonna get from Mosaic and be done with
Bring
it.
it up.
Well,
We
let's-
might have a pretty good project. We don't have to argue about it anymore.
I think they'd like that. Let's just do it, and then we don't have these arguments anymore. Let's just give them the $40 million.
Would you like to have any reasonable debate about?
I'm trying to have a
I
reasonable
can throw in
debate.
some information on that, if you like. Hello.
Yes.
I'm new to this board. Well, besides Mr. Davis and myself, we're the newest to them. And I wasn't involved with it, but it went from Blue Water to LifeSync to Continuing Labs to, then there was a thing that contained university. It seems to be an ongoing project that doesn't show what the results are. On the whole picture, if you're on that, you look at yourself as an individual and it works for you. But when you got to look at the whole thing, if this was if the people are available to jump in, and if businesses are dying to come in, and if it's so good, there'd be something nationally. Travis says the product is the best there is. How can that be substantiated? What have been the results? It seems, you know what it seems like? There's always a caveat given, well, if it doesn't work out, we can go in another direction. Time is money. So when we're looking at buildings, walls taken out, I'd like to see what, when they're talking about nationally, well, where is the rest of the country and how is it compared?
It seems to me like a while back, we, as a board, that I wasn't on at the time either, but as a board, the board said, we're willing to invest 7.25 million, if that's the right number.
That may have been the first mistake.
On a project that we see vision on, that has no employees, that has no product. And now, 2 years later, we find ourselves, and the real question is this: we have a product, we have a building, we have employees, we have people that are trained, we have people using that product. And here's the only question in my mind. Well, there's two questions. One is an audit of the past thing, but the only question really for us going forward is the risk on his business worth $990,000 to try to make it successful? That's not a question of 7.25 million now. It's a question of 990,000. Is it worth 990,000 for us to keep him in business?
No, the question has to go all the way back.
No.
Was the original
No,
thing in
that's,
this
that
thing?
money's
No, it
spent.
wasn't.
We've
That
already
money's spent.
spent it.
What we
Well,
have to
it may have
decide
been
right
spent.
now,
But was the
what
original?
we have to decide right now is it worth $990,000? Is this business proposition worth $990,000 to bring jobs
Vetting
into
is
Hardy
a
County?
continuous process. You have to know what your business is doing as it goes on. And banks do that very well. They give out a loan, and then if something happens and they don't pay their rent, they're going to change that loan. And if it's real bad, they're going to call in that loan. You can't just take the past and say, oh, well, we did this. And in the military, they buy a whole row of tanks and they never use the tanks. And then you say, well, buy them some more tanks. Well, I don't want to get in. It's like looking at a red herring in a pond. Look at what's in the pond and what's produced.
What is reasonable collateral?
That's up for the board to decide.
What do we have to choose from?
That's up for discussion between the board and Mr. Bond to decide what's acceptable to both parties. I mean, I didn't feel comfortable proffering his house. I mean, that's something for you guys to have to decide what you think is reasonable and acceptable.
Well, what,
Collateral is collateral, it wouldn't be relevant what it is. You're not supposed to list his.
I don't know, I'm just asking.
One more thing, there's so many people that he listed them all that are interested in the product. If they're interested in the product, let them put up the money.
Well, I kind of view it as you were saying, and I wasn't on it either. I came on with Donald, me and Donald, same class. So but I kind of view it as we saw, the board saw a direction to take and decided that would be the avenue we want, or the direction we wanted to go in. And I kind of view this as doing what you say we're gonna do. I mean, we said we were gonna fund this, and now we're here at the end. Are we gonna do what we said we were gonna do, or are we not? We're actually coming up with a fourth option to stop. But, me personally, I do what I say I'm gonna do.
All right, on that respect.
Now, we want to have an audit because of the heat that has been put down on this and the questions involved in this. The man's saying that he is willing to go through an audit. Bill's saying get every question answered that is possibly could be asked in that audit. You immediately wrote off, the audit's not going to tell us nothing. Well, we wouldn't deem that as a board as acceptable.
Okay, we'll
We
see.
want an audit to tell us
Okay.
what we want it to tell us.
Okay, we'll see.
So we'll move from there. Well, you're part of this.
Okay, you're saying that that we need to do what we say we'd do. Have they done what they say they were gonna do with employee numbers and number of clients at this point in the process?
It's a good point.
And
But
answer's no.
business is business. I don't think he's sitting over there trying to say, well, I'm gonna fool everybody. Here's what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna fool you.
And if he is,
Well,
I don't think, it's
Well-
not right either for you to say that you haven't been on there. You need to look at it. Really, they said, if you looked at the product, you said no.
Oh, I haven't looked at it.
That's not.
But
You shouldn't
why
be like-
isn't there 400,000 customers or 100,000 customers? And if it's such a great product, and it may be a great product,
But
why
it-
haven't investors jumped on this thing?
I think I got the best product, and I push it hard as I can. Why ain't I got 400,000?
Well, you're not national.
Well, I'm trying.
I know, and I agree. You got a great product. It burns good.
Well,
What's your product?
I think to your point,
Propane.
Oh, you mean corporate fuel?
I think to your point, though, you know, we all need to understand that the initial phase of this has been the development of the product. The payoff on our investment is the jobs created from the marketing and the sales of the product. So I would love to see them have 400,000 users. They have to
Well, that's
start
what they
the
said.
marketing and the sales of the product, which is the phase that they're in now, to get to 400,000 users. And 400,000 users, I couldn't tell you what that would equate to. I don't know that we would, if they had 400,000 users, I don't know that we would be able to fill the jobs in Hardee County
Sure.
to service 400,000.
Oh, yeah.
If he has 400,000 and he's making $8 million personally salary a week, would we be mad? Yes.
No, I
We'd
wouldn't.
attack the guy.
No, I wouldn't be mad. That'd be wonderful, but it's
You won't- but
it's
you-
not happening.
But you want him to succeed.
Absolutely. But I think I think this thing has run its course, though.
It hasn't.
Sure, I want him to succeed.
It hasn't, has it?
No, but how much money are we gonna put in this thing till we say, well, it runs its course?
We're gonna put in what we
15
said we
million,
were.
10 million, 12 million, how much?
We're gonna do what we said we were gonna do. That's what we're gonna do.
Well, they need to do what they say they're gonna do.
Okay, Mike, how about, let's hear from you.
All right, couple points. First of all, we just heard Danny Weeks talk about the building up there at Hardy Lakes, okay? He was supposed to be finished November 1st, okay? Let's just say, what happened? Same thing with you, Don. You building the dang power line through somewhere, you get a hurricane, you get this, and that's stuff that you've got all the answers to know what everything is. This is building a product that's brand new, doesn't touch anywhere. And my whole point about this, we're finally getting to see if it is a sellable product. We've got the proposals that he threw up there today, you know, whether next 3 months, next 6 months, whatever, they see whether these proposals are successful or not.
I feel like we have a car, we built it, it's on the, we just have to put that one more lug nut on, and the guy in the back saying, how many cars have we sold? We haven't sold 400,000? Don't put the lug nut on, let's walk away. That's where I feel like we're at.
Well, I have a different
Well, I
opinion.
agree with Doug and Russ that if we get the audit, as Bill suggested, if Mr. Bond proves that he's done what he said, and if we don't proceed, then how are we gonna attract other companies coming in here? And when they say, well, they saw what we did to Mr. Bond, and I think we'll just go to Tampa or
Money
somewhere.
left.
So, I mean, if we can't do what we said we were gonna do, and there's proof that he's done what he said he would do, then I think, hey, I don't know, maybe we shouldn't take any more money from Mosaic. I don't know. That's my comment.
I don't think we're gonna have enough money to do another project like this once this is over.
Well,
I think there's not gonna
we're
be
talking
enough
about $1
left
million.
of the 40 million.
We're talking about $1 million. We're not talking about 40 million that you're talking about giving. We're talking about $1 million.
After the $1 million is spent, they're
Well,
gonna
we're
want another
done.
3 or 4 million, and they'll get it from this board. You know that?
Maybe we're done, Don.
No, not what I hear now, but I'm done. I see I'm beat. Let's move on. Did somebody make a motion to do whatever?
Eat lunch.
Yeah, I'm ready to eat lunch.
So what's the pleasure of the board?
I make a motion that we proceed with the audit.
Well, I think we have,
Option 1, 2, or 3, or 4.
Door number 1, door number 2, or
Door number 3.
Or door number 5.
3 is.
3.
3, okay, was it 2? 2, I'm sorry, 2.
In terms of that, I think we need to determine what reasonable collateral is, or we need to assign somebody to determine what reasonable collateral is.
Can I offer up
Certainly.
continuum stuff?
$1 million worth of value in this house.
What's that worth?
I don't think we can take it.
I think we've got a rule, we can't take stock, right?
I wouldn't want us to take it. Ken may have a different opinion, but
You cannot,
I think
you
it would
cannot,
be.
you cannot legally, you cannot legally take stock because of the special.
You know, a lot has been said here today. A lot has been said here over the last 2 years. I want to add one more little bit to this. This project is a construction project. And we made a commitment of $7.25 million to a construction project. The shingles haven't been nailed on the roof yet. The lug nut has not been put on the tire. If you have a lack of faith in Mr. Bond, that's entirely your prerogative or anyone's prerogative to do that. But we still made a commitment. When the Auditor General came in last year, they said to me, "What are you going to do if it fails?" And I said, well, at this point, the only vulnerability it has to failing is if we fail to fund. When the FDLE came in, when the FDLE came in and looked at me and interviewed me and asked me all these questions, one of the guys was from one of the little towns just north of us. And he said to me, "I sure wish we'd had an opportunity to try something like this in our little town." He said it might have made a difference because there's nothing there today. And we're holding this future right here in our hands. This was not started on a whim. It may have been started on a wing and a prayer. I can't tell you that. But we did it subjectively. We did it because we all recognized there was some need to diversify this little economy, to change its status quo of the way it had been doing business. How can we be proud of parentally or annually being ranked #1 in teen pregnancy and #1 in unemployment? We have an impoverished community. And now we have an income stream, and we're trying to use it to the best of our ability to improve livelihoods. That's your opinion.
It is, that is my opinion.
But it was not your opinion 2 years ago. You know that.
You already
Hey,
had that
we've been through this
discussion.
before. Let me tell you something, Bill. When you first approached this, I did think it was a great idea for $2.5 million.
You would have voted for it.
I would have for $2.5 million, not $7.5 or $10 million. No, I would not have. But for $2.5 million, yes, I would have given it that chance. Yes, I would have. But this has got out of hand. And you keep saying, well, we need to throw more money in it, throw more money in it. Well, hell, it's got to come to a stop, don't it? Sooner or later?
Yes, it can come to a stop today.
No, because I'm the only one that seems to be concerned about this.
Yeah, I'm concerned about it.
You know, there don't seem to be a stopping point.
There's a lot of other
We
things.
could do a lot more with this money, I think, at the commerce part, or buying buildings in town and putting people in them, than this. The continuation of this. I mean, we've done.
There was a point when you didn't like building spec buildings too, if you recall.
I don't remember that, but it could have been.
There was a point.
But I've changed my mind.
Well,
That, hey, I can see, feel, and touch that joker out there, and if that guy fails, there's somebody else can move in it. But if this fails, that money's gone. It's down the sewer.
you know,
It's gonna clog up the pipes out there at the Commerce Park because we ain't got our thing built.
So because of that, you want to force it to fail?
Force it to fail, it's failed on its own.
It has not failed on its own.
Well, why don't Vandola Power put $1 million in it, a stock? We'll buy $1 million worth of stock.
On that business, Terry, the board is in that business.
Are we in the business of throwing money away?
Well, if you feel like that's what we're doing.
Absolutely. I'm not gonna vote for it.
Can I make one more statement, please? There's the product that Travis
Yeah, but no.
says it's very, very good and it's very desirable. We're comparing what you have, the product, and you. The product needs to be compared to the industry that is growing, to the rate of change, of development. And where that product is in that graph with other products going on in the whole country, for that to be the best one in the country, that's the proof that needs to be provided by Mr. Bond, how it compares with all these products that are on the same thing, and also the impact of Obamacare and what's going to happen to it. And what I'm saying is we can't take our individual thing and, you know, everybody brings it up, this, and a car and nuts, and the product has to be compared to what's going on national. Wouldn't you agree to that?
Yeah, but his risk is our risk, and his failure is our failure. His success is our success.
That's why he needs to show.
Y'all are treating him as if he were a loan recipient. He was a grant recipient. And he is a grant recipient based on an idea to change the economy in this community.
Maybe that idea needed to be looked at in a different manner, like go out to the Wall Street Journal.
But we did it from a grant process. What's more democratic
No,
than
you could
that?
have gone out to the Wall Street Journal and you could have advertised nationally that you got money available here in this little, but you wanted to keep the money within Hardy County.
We didn't do that. They're not from Hardy County.
I'm talking about from the beginning on. They were brought in without, well, I wasn't there, so.
Well, I think what we're missing here is our obligation to the citizens of Hardin County.
Yeah.
And we're not, in my opinion, we're just not doing a very good job of continuing this thing to throw this money away.
I have something. I realize I wasn't on the board back then. I also realized the board went on the hook for $7.25 million. That's what we promised to get the project up, running, and going. We're trying to get other businesses in Hardin County. If we start saying, okay, we'll give you $2 million, come on in, start your business, halfway through the project, say, you know, we changed our mind. We'll give you $500,000. Sorry about your luck. Somebody's got to take the blame for bringing it up to motion, so I will. I'm gonna make the motion. We continue funding year 3 as had already been approved by the board. With no stipulations. There haven't been any other than the jobs.
But we need a draw request if you're gonna do, I mean, we need, no.
How is it now? 300,000 a year, I mean a month?
I mean, if you wanted us to disperse it over 3 months, then I'd prefer you to say to disperse it in 3 installments.
Okay.
So is that your motion?
Does that include an audit, after the audit?
And still get an audit. Now, because if you do that after the audit, you're looking
No, I mean.
90 days, he isn't gonna have anything to begin with.
Skip the collateral.
What's he gonna put up?
Lord, no.
What does he put up for the other?
Well, that's what it should be,
He's a rich man.
something
I
come
mean,
up.
So far,
He's the same.
what does he put up for the first 6 million?
If I went down there to the Wauchula State Bank to borrow $1 million, they're gonna ask for collateral. Well, why
What has he
shouldn't
put up?
we get collateral?
What did he put up for the first 6 million?
Zero.
You typically don't put up.
But it seems to be okay.
It was a grant.
You don't put up collateral for a grant.
I mean, there's no collateral mentioned anywhere
in there.
for the 7th.
You're talking about the 6. The 6 is already paid. That's what you're talking
It
about,
says
right?
number 2, it says a loan, but I doubt it's worth the paper it's written on.
So we have a motion on the table. We can take up the audit as a separate issue.
I mean, I still want to see an audit, but as far
But
as.
why have an audit? The money's gone.
So,
Answer a lot of questions of where it went.
Well, it's not gonna prove nothing.
I think it's gonna prove everything.
so,
After
It's
the
gonna
money's
prove-
gone?
It's gonna prove everything. Even if all it proves is that we made one colossal mistake, it's gonna prove it. That's right.
All right.
The people that send out emails at 2 o'clock in the morning can say, you know what, we were right, they were wrong. And
Well, you
that audit will
shouldn't make a vote on what people say at 2 o'clock in the morning.
prove- I agree, but,
so to,
Gene, oh, sorry.
that's okay. So to restate your motion, Jean, what you're making a motion on is to continue funding for the balance of the 9
$990,000 over a 3-month period,
3 equal installments.
3 equal, and also still get an audit.
And to order whatever they call it, and you'll see it before it goes out.
So essentially, option one, but you're detailing the draw request in 3 installments. I'll second it.
So we have a motion and a second.
I have a question.
Yes.
To be voted on each month? Or to put it final and that's it?
That isn't how we have handled it.
My understanding, the motion was without vote.
Still have the monthly reports.
Still have the monthly
Continue
report.
business as
That's no
usual.
right.
And they're gonna prove everything.
So we have a motion and a second. Do we have any further board discussion?
Question, Travis, on some of the proposals you have up there, will some of them you feel pretty sure that you will be able to see a yay or nay on some of them in the next 3 or 4 months?
Yes, sir.
Can I interject one thing? He's made a draw request for $295,000 that's standing in front of you to be approved. I think the most prudent thing, if you're going to go down this path, is to accept that draw request and approve the last 2 draws on the remaining amount over 2 months.
I think that would be the understanding.
What's the current? The current is he comes with draw request. Is that right?
He presents draw requests. The board has not approved those draw requests on a monthly basis because the amount was fulfilled.
Right.
And, I mean, you had already approved the amount.
Right.
In this instance, in the last 3 payments, the issue right now, if I understand the motion right, you will accept my amendment, it would be to approve the current draw request of $295,000, whatever it is. I don't know precisely.
$299,411.
And then allow 2 more ensuing draws for the next 2 months on the balance, however it comes out.
$691,469.87.
And the reason to change to equal payments for the last 2 rather than draw request is?
However he draws it. He made whatever his draw request is for months 2
Yeah, I
and 3.
think,
They have
So-
run consistently around $300,000.
Right.
so essentially striking the equal payments verbiage is what you're
Yeah.
suggesting.
And no collateral, is that right?
That is the motion.
And just to clarify one thing I said, in clarifying the motion, I said this is basically number 1. It actually isn't number 1, because number 1 required a 100% match, and we're not talking about a 100% match. So just in case I introduce.
Just change it to no match.
Yeah, a
Thank
no
you.
match.
Thank you for clarifying. So Jean, just for clarification, to make sure we all are on the same page, we are basically continuing funding under the same premises that we have currently, with the addition of an audit, those procedures to be agreed upon by Mr. Bond and the IDA.
Correct.
And that is a motion you
Yes.
seconded.
I want to make one last suggestion to Travis. Because of the timeliness of the audit, I'd like to include the last 3 distributions in the audit so that we at least have a closeout audit at the end of the day.
That makes perfect sense.
Madam Chair, can I further complicate it?
No.
Please.
Well, I think the motion ought to include, and it may have been implicit within it, but it at least ought to include a direction to staff to bring back an amendment to the agreement. I mean, it's termed out. The agreement is expired, September 30th. So there needs to be a direction to staff to bring back to you a document which documents whatever the board's direction is, however the vote goes.
Which I would assume was implied, but if you would like
Right.
to confirm that is included in your motion.
And that can be done after the fact?
Well, I would suggest treating like we did the last, I think if someone referred to it as a bridge, whatever that.
Yeah, whatever that
The draw
is.
request he has pending be funded in the agreement reflect the last 2. that comes back to you next month that deals with the last two draws.
That's as clear as mud.
So the motion, oh, yeah.
Is that implied in your motion?
Or extend the existing contract by 3 months and increase the
That
total
says,
amount by the
That seems a little
$997.
less money.
But that's not gonna include an audit.
Well,
Well,
you
it
can
would
direct
be-
it in, include within
It
it
would
the
be
requirement of
extending
the
the
audit.
contract inclusive of an audit. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is that what you've seconded?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion by the board?
I want to make sure we have this right.
I'm gonna vote against it, it don't matter.
The motion is to extend the existing contract by 3 months, approving the current draw request before the board and funding the remaining balance over the ensuing 2 months.
Remaining balance of,
The remaining
The balance
balance
of
of 7.25 million. And there was one other point, Ken.
To include an audit.
And to order an audit, including the last 3 months.
Well, just of the entire 7.25.
Time's up.
You missed your lunch point.
Okay, what I have now is, motion is to extend existing contract by 3 months, approving current draw request and fund the remaining balance of 7.25 million over the ensuing 2 months, and order an audit of the entire 7.25 million.
That is your motion?
Yes.
That's what you've seconded. Further discussion by the board. Do we have any public comment? Mr. Coleman?
Wow. No one asked, if I was sitting up there, the first thing I would ask Mr. Bond, when he comes here and he's talking about, he may have a proposal on the board, or he might get a meeting with somebody, or this thing's been on the market since April the 22nd, I would say, have you sold anything? How much?
You're on your time, Mr. Coleman.
How much have you sold? How many users? What's your revenue this month? I can guarantee you, I'll put $1,000 on the table right now, that in 3 months, which I guess could be around December the 1st, that money's gonna be gone. Then what are you gonna do? Then you're gonna go hire this Larson guy, you're gonna give them very narrow things to look at, and you're gonna say, oh, we think the deliverables were substantially obtained. We think that, yeah, on balance, we think that he did about he's walking. Those 15 people who were secret too, you won't tell us who they are.
Mr. Coleman, address the board, please.
I'm making a statement. He won't tell us who they are. You won't find out who they are. Don't you want to know who the 15 employees are? Do you believe him? She doesn't know. Willful ignorance is against the law. You are not doing your job, fiduciary responsibility to the people of Hardy County, by sitting here and playing stupid. You don't ask this man how much he sold. Is this business sustainable? Mr. Lambert told the Auditor General, whether the company, Continuum Labs, reaches financial self-sufficiency with adequate job creation, producing income multipliers, and increase in the tax basis is the ultimate test of success or failure. That's what the man said. If at the end of November, the money's gone, I knew you were going to give him the money. He could demand that you give him the money. His contract didn't say that he had to go through some audit. She gave you the deliverables. She didn't say he did not deliver anything. The only way you could keep from giving this man that money is to say that he failed. Don't tell me this was a grant. He has a note. He signed a note. He owes us $7.25 million if he doesn't succeed. If you look at the Blue Water application that you wrote, it was about a product. It wasn't about the fluff. He didn't produce the product. It failed. CareSync is failing.
Final comments, Mr. Coleman.
Failing. If he had a product, he would be jumping up and down telling you he's got 100,000 users and the revenue's jumping by whatever. He doesn't have any money. He can't make a match. He doesn't have any collateral. He's got zip. You're giving him the money because you're giving him the money. You don't want to pull a plug because it's just a little bit more money.
Thank you, Mr.
That's what
Coleman.
you're doing. So this audit, if you let this guy hire Larson
Thank you,
and
Mr.
do what he did with
Coleman.
Rapid Systems, it's just another
Mr. Coleman, please take your
action.
seats. Thank you.
About the audit, who, we're gonna have an RFP?
Larson,
on the audit?
he's already talking to him.
Mr. Coleman,
Okay, that's enough.
please have a seat. Thank
You
you.
know, they're our auditor.
I don't have any confidence anymore in Clifton Larson Allen, not after the Rapid System thing. When our
Okay,
contract,
let me just hold you up just a second. We have a motion and a second, and I understand your concern about wanting to debate who is going to conduct the audit, but I think we need to move forward with this
okay.
business.
Okay.
Any further public comment? Okay. All those in favor?
Say aye. Aye.
Thank you. Anyone opposed?
Aye.
I,
Motion carries.
You have anything else?
Okay, we'll move into the financial report. Sarah?
All right, I have a couple of items in the financial section to bring before you today. The first one, since approval was given to accept the EDA grant proceeds for the incubator project, I would like to seek authorization and approval from the board for staff to do the necessary duties of opening a new account to accept those monies. We'll be placing those monies into a special incubator account that we will need to open. So first off, we need to get approval for that.
You want to?
You're ready for a motion?
Yes,
I think Doug's actually already ahead of you with the motion.
okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do I need to abstain?
Well, at this point, we do not know.
And the depository is not a conflict? Okay.
Any further discussion by the board? Any public comment? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay.
All right. The second item is to get authorization to transfer money from general revenue into this new incubator account to take care of the necessary financial obligations as far as the deposit goes for the building. And then also, I do have a draw request from Peaceful River Paddle Boards that will come before you today as well. And so I would like to request that money totaling his grant award request be put into.
How much money did you request?
So, 63,300.
Does that account for the change in the contract of $25,000 escrow for the purchase of the
Plus
property?
$25,000 for escrow.
All of that's reimbursable by the EDA too.
Yes.
So at this point, you're just you're just seeking a motion to transfer funds.
Correct, from general revenue into the new incubator account, because we do have to spend the money before we
And
receive the money.
it will be reimbursed by the EDA and go back into general revenue.
Yes. And we're on a month-to-month contract, so we won't have to wait and do quarterly reimbursement from the EDA. We can do it month-to-month, so we won't have to wait as long in between disbursements.
So do we have a motion to authorize the transfer?
Was that 63 plus 25 is 88,000?
Yes, sir,
Was
it
it
is.
total 88,000?
300.
300.
88,300, I'm sorry. That's the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion by the board? Any public comment? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay.
All right, and then the last item, you should have in front of you a 2-page document titled Hardee County Industrial Development Authority Request for Grant Proceeds Disbursement. This is a form that was made in-house in our office by staff, and basically what I am asking from the board is approval to use this as a template for monthly draw requests made by Peace River Paddles as well as Cantu Aviaries. When we agreed to take on the grant from the EDA for the incubator project, both of those companies had applications into the board at that time. It was approved by the EDA for us to include their grant applications into one funding for the incubator project. So we are essentially controlling or managing their grant applications. So every month, Peace River Paddle will turn in a draw request form to me, and this is the template I would like to use, and then I will disperse his funds. What happens after that, I have to provide documentation to the clerk of court showing that he's actually spent the money on the items that he has said. So when I go to turn in my reimbursement forms to the clerk of court's office, I will take this disbursement sheet plus all of his invoices and cancel checks showing that he actually paid for these items and turn it in to the clerk of courts, and then they will reimburse that. Okay? I will put that reimbursement back into general revenue where it came from. So you can take a look at this is his initial startup cost. His monthly draw request will not be for this amount. This is just his initial cost to get him going and get underway. So his month-to-month cost will be quite a considerable amount less than this.
Okay, so this is just a form to look at. It's not an actual draw request.
This is Peace River Paddle's draw request for this month.
Both.
Oh,
It's-
okay,
it's
no, I didn't
New
understand
format.
that.
It's both. This is the first time you're seeing
Okay.
it and the first time we're using it. So this will be the template we use from here on out, and then this is also his first draw request.
All right, I got a question. If they fail, say the first 2 or 3 months, what happens to this van and trailer?
That is something that's controlled by the EDA.
Is the
Not
van in
controlled by us.
is the van in the IDA's name, or is the van going to be in their name?
This is, we are basically just,
We're basically.
Yeah, but what, I mean, that wouldn't be a very smart
Well,
investment.
I think that's a good question, though, and essentially, maybe what needs to be clarified is that we're essentially managing these funds for the EDA. The EDA has given the business the
EDA.
grant,
yes.
and we're basically just administering, and this is part of our funding that we receive from the EDA, that if they give grants to be administered through the IDA, that we basically administer those grants. Is
Since
that?
we're administering for them, are they bound to reimburse us for the things that we deem as reasonable expenditures?
I think that's
That's
what
the
we've
contract.
asked Ken.
Well, what's the
essentially to-
answer?
So once we have this and we write them a check, they don't have a choice but to pay us back.
As long as I can prove that the money was
They have to
spent
ma- they have to
on
prove they
what
bought
it
the
was
van.
actually spent on, turning in the
And part of your draw request would be to have that correspondence that would ultimately take to them, to
Correct.
you,
Yeah.
as you approve, okay,
Yes.
as you see it.
What's a sub?
Wait, do we have an answer?
I can give you an answer.
Of course. I mean, what I'm looking for is a new truck, so if I can get me a grant, and get a new truck,
Okay.
then I'll
Well,
fail.
let's go back. They advertise a grant cycle. Trey puts in an application.
Right.
He is successful in the grant cycle
Yes.
to win the grant.
Yes.
$200,000, was it? He has a schedule of
Right.
items that have been approved.
Right,
We put the funding of his grant
Right.
into the incubator, and we're administering the monies.
right.
If you today want to put caveats on the purchase of the van and say that, great, we don't want it, obviously, I hope we don't want it, because there's too much liability, but there are no strings attached to that van. If he
Okay,
gets a
that's
van
all I wanna
and a
know.
trailer
That's
and
all I
6
wanna know.
canoes and walks away with
Okay,
it,
that's all I
he
wanna know.
gets it.
That's all I wanna know, is that he could walk away with
It
a
is-
brand new
it is
van
money at
in a
risk.
month after he gets it.
Look at him.
I said he could.
A $20,000 van.
That's a nice van, ain't it?
This is,
It's not enough
Pretty
money.
nice
Tell him,
van.
Gene.
It's got air conditioning and a radio, that's all I need.
I have a question. On the draw request, the total grant amount is listed as 250. Is it 250 or 200?
It was 250. Okay.
Okay. That's just a typo.
That's it, yeah.
Okay.
All right, 2.5 million.
So you need a motion to approve the draw request and consider utilizing this form essentially, or you're presenting that you will be presenting this in this method moving forward.
Yep.
So do we have a motion?
Just a little talk. I appreciate and understand that comment, Donald.
Thank you.
But what else could you do?
Well, I thought there might be something in a contract that we got that after, you know, if you don't make it after 12 months, we get the van back. Or the EDA does, or somebody does, just to protect the public's money, that's all. But as Bill says, hey, if he fails, so good, you got him a new van.
Well, not in a fight manner, but in a discussion. I was asking you, I mean, what else? And so you're saying that, hey, after a year, you give it back if you don't succeed.
If you don't succeed.
And succeed.
Or
you
6
mean-
months, whatever it is.
Okay,
Well, if he
6
says,
months.
hey, I can't do this, I'm going out of business.
then it's
Well,
not-
succeed
it's not a
means
grant.
what? What does succeed
Well, I say
mean?
he just shuts down his business.
Guy gets hurt or something.
Well, he says, I'm not selling any paddle boards. I can't afford to do this any longer. I mean, it's just failed.
Can you be positive for one moment?
I think you need to go back to EDA and say, all right, how do you want us to, it's not our, you give us the money, you set the parameters, we're just administering it. So I think the company need to talk to EDA, so the idea.
I'm just, yeah. I thought it might be, I mean, I could see where,
It's the grant money. that
I mean,
was-
you were at
It
that
is-
meeting, right? I was not at that meeting.
I didn't even know they were gonna buy a van or a trailer. I'd have brought it up there. I had
But
no
if-
clue they were gonna buy a van. So I saw that and said, well, what happens if they fail in a month or two with the van? I'm just looking out for the citizens' money. I
But it's
mean,
his business
I
plan.
know it's a hell of a thing to do, is say I'm looking after the citizens' money. It don't seem to be an approval rating here, but I'm trying to.
Well-
Come on.
Yeah, you know
Come
that.
on.
You know that.
In this process, we have a request from distribution that comes into the IDA. We give them money. Then they're gonna go buy the van. Then they're gonna come back and you're gonna get the receipt for the van and take it to the EDA. What happens to the IDA as administrator of this if they fail before they come back with the receipt? Let's say he goes down to the Ford dealership and buys him a van and just drives out. Not saying you would, I know you wouldn't, but what happens to our liability as administrator of it? Are we on the hook for, did we just lose $20,000? Will the EDA say, hey, you administered in good faith?
I think
We're
if
gonna give you the money back?
we gave him money that was outside the parameters of the grant,
Well, I'm saying if it's within the parameters of the grant, for some reason, there's a disconnect, and we don't obtain the receipts that we need to go back to proffer up the draw request to the EDA. If there's a disconnect that happens between the time we put out the money, because we're doing more than administering the grant, we're actually fronting the money for the grant. So there's a point in time where we have money on the, out in the open, and we have not yet received verification that that money specifically will be reimbursed. I mean, we know it will be if we come up with the right documents and we go back to the EDA. But what happens if that doesn't happen? Are we on the hook for the 20,000?
I think that's a fair question. Is there perhaps an opportunity for us to direct fund rather than cut out the middleman? So that essentially we would cut a check to whoever should receive those funds. And
it's a little more complex than that. The EDA is created with 3 directives: to solicit, to rank, and to fund grants for economic development and infrastructure, basically related to economic development. That is the law. But they don't really have a mechanism to administer grants in this fashion. So they are utilizing us. That was the process we've gone through in the last couple of months to become the mechanism for them to fund a grant of this type. I am not certain, I don't think that the EDA will be, at this point, I don't see them withholding funding for us. But all we can do is we get these requests and.
Do we have a written agreement that governs our administering that contract?
Yeah.
Yes,
It
it was in
does
the
it talk
incubator,
about?
it was in the incubator contract that you just approved
Okay.
earlier. And that was kind of my thoughts, is that the EDA has deemed the IDA the responsible manager of these funds. So they have put us in charge of managing these grant monies for these rural paddles.
And that would make perfect sense to me if we were writing a check out of their account. Or we're writing a check out of our
I was
account.
kind of going where Phil was going in the fact that since they have deemed us the ones who are responsible for the money, we have a contract that states such. Both of these companies that are requesting draws each month from us are listed in that contract. I
Essentially,
would
if we're,
assume that they would not withhold the funding.
if we're essentially approving this as a representative of the EDA in this particular example, and binding them to reimburse us, I have no problem at all with it. I'm just curious if that's the case, that's all.
That would be my interpretation of it.
I will take
I'm
that
not an
question to the
attorney,
EDA and get you an answer on that, but I'm certain there would be.
I know their intent would be to do that, but I just,
They're new things. There are no templates for this. I wish there were.
There's never been a vehicle bought like this that I can remember, and it's new territory.
If that's what he needs in
It's
order
new
to let the
territory.
business go,
I don't have a problem with buying the van, Bill. I'm just curious what happens to it if he fails before a year.
I'll liquidate all my assets and give it back. Fine with me.
Bill says we don't want a van.
It'll look like what's in the state parking lot.
Okay, so Sarah is still in need of a motion to approve this draw request. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is that your first time?
Yeah, let him do it.
So your first time.
Let Morris do it.
No, he seconded it.
I know, that's why I say let him second it.
Yes.
Do it, sure.
Let the record show
Let's be on
that was
record.
seconded by Horst.
So how you gonna vote?
Do we have
You're negative,
any
man.
further board
Well,
discussion?
then, you're negative.
We're almost there, people, almost. Any public comment? Mr. Coolman?
Real quick, just so, you may not know this, but there's nobody minding the store at the EDA. When those requests for grants go through that system, and then they get approved, and it's just their grant, nothing coming here, let's say somewhere else, that those receipts are turned in, and then they just pay the receipts. As soon as they get a receipt, yep, and the total doesn't go over the amount of the grant, They just pay those. There's no vetting, there's no closeouts, there's no nothing as far as the EDA. They don't want to be involved in that stuff. That's why I believe you're getting this job here, that you're supposed to be checking the veracity of these expenditures in support of the grant. I mean, exactly what you're not doing with Continuum Labs, exactly why at this point you want to go back and get audits, 3 years later, all that stuff. But the EDA is, as far as they're concerned, that's the way to do it. Now, Mr. Samuels talks about who gets the van. It's a very good question. Who owns all those assets, the physical assets purchased by LifeSync and Continuum Labs over all these years? When he walks into us, what happens to all those that you're supposed to have an inventory control program, you're supposed to keep track of this stuff, all the serial numbers, you're supposed to, all this stuff. So these questions about these grants, the way to handle it, you could do another one of your performance-based mortgage notes type things where it's got to do this, that, this, or it reverse, whatever. He owes you the money, got to pay you the money back. There are ways to do it so that you're just not giving out free vans. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coolman. Any other public discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay. What else do you have for us?
Financials.
Floor is yours.
Okay, if you'll turn to page 2, that is profit and loss for the EDC as of September 2013, which is the end of our fiscal year, by the way. Our total income brought in for the month was $4,500. Our expenses for the month were pretty normal. We had a month totaling $26,237.22. And so our net income was negative $21,737.22. So if you flip over, actually if you go back one page, the balance sheet shows as of September 30th, total checking accounted for was $60,568.31. There wasn't anything unusual about the month. If you keep flipping, you'll have your general ledger, your reconciliation, and your payroll summary. If you have any questions about those, I can answer them at this time.
On page 2, the travel, that included your trip to the
That includes
ethics?
the trip to, no,
No.
not the ethics. That travel amount was larger due to a trip to Atlanta that was taken by Bill for the company that you always saw, Lex.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one, yeah, okay, thank you.
So they were
Yeah, yeah.
seeing
They're on
that
top of
company.
that.
So, any other questions?
Any other questions?
Give him a job.
We need a motion to approve the financials.
Let me do IDA real quick. That was just easy thing.
Well,
Page
don't
15.
stop. Keep going.
Page 15, profit and loss for September for IDA. You'll notice the top line, that was reimbursement we received from the EDA for our grant for PFM, so we took in a little over $500,000. We also brought in income under IDA projects, almost $11,000. That is because in PFM's building, there are a couple of cosmetic items that they wanted to upgrade. So they are paying us for the upgrade. In our contract, we only allotted a certain amount for specific cosmetic items. But we are allowing them to upgrade and pay the difference in those items if they so choose. So that almost $11,000 for a couple of items that they upgraded in the building.
What is a cosmetic?
I wasn't going to get into that, but you brought it up, so, okay.
Okay, so they wanted to switch out the lighting, for instance. In this room, you notice that we have fluorescent lighting in the building. In their offices and in their engineering rooms, they wanted to go to an LED light because of the long hours and the concentration that the engineers will be sitting in that room. LED lighting was something that they felt was necessary for the
When
health.
you say they, put a name on it.
PFM,
Put a name on it.
Sean Owen.
Thank you.
So, we had budgeted for your standard fluorescent lighting. They wanted LED lights, so they paid the difference to have LED lights put into the building versus the fluorescent. And then, on this particular one, the other item that was upgraded were the countertops in their break room kitchen area. We had Formica budgeted for, Sean wanted to pay for granite to be put in there, so he paid for that.
Any other questions?
No, but I got a comment after this vote.
Okay. We need a motion to approve the financials.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
I do.
Any further discussion? Any public comment? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anything else?
I'm done.
Rick Justice did send a text to me before the meeting started that he had a family medical situation and couldn't make it. I don't know what that was.
I got one question for council unless you want to go first.
I'll go first. I wasn't gonna bring this up. I talked to Bill about it a little bit yesterday, and he got mad at me. And, but we made up. I got a complaint from a vendor about, and here's the email I sent to Christie. I understand there was 3,500 square feet of porcelain tile installed. Please send me a copy of the bids. What I understand is that the first bid was for like $11,000 for a linoleum or something. PFM wanted to change that to porcelain, which was another $15,000 or $20,000. Okay, what the problem is to me, that once the scope of work changed, then it had to go back out for bid. That PFM does not dictate who the vendors are, the bidding process does. So, and we pay half acre with public money, so it should have went back out for the bid. It should not have been just given to the vendor who got the first bid, because the scope of work changed. Okay, and I think that violates our contract with Half Acre. So anyway, I'm not gonna read all these emails back and forth, because I think it should have went back to the bid. It's not fair to the other vendors that they didn't have an opportunity to bid on this new scope of work. So what I said was, the IDA pays Half Acre a percentage of doing this work. With this upward change, the amount the IDA will pay Half Acre with public funds is going to be more. Because public funds are involved, I believe this has to be rebid. You cannot separate public funds out of this mix. The bidding process chooses the vendor, not PFM. So I didn't really get anywhere with the EDO office, so I emailed Ken. Can you tell me if this was rebid? If not, why? And he never responded. So.
Donald, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
To clarify what your concern is?
Yes.
Are you talking about the upgrades that they chose to do to our building?
No.
And they paid for?
No. I'm saying that the scope of work should have been rebid by the three vendors who originally bid. The vendor complained to me that he didn't get a chance to rebid when the scope of work changed. That's what I'm complaining about. Not that the work was done.
So do you feel like the scope of work that we committed to changed because PF Man wanted to pay independently?
I'm telling you that the IDA is building that building out there with public money. And
But the changes are not being paid for.
we go by the bidding process.
Which I understand, I mean.
Which we did.
I fully support that.
Not in the end, we didn't.
But I think that what he is choosing to pay for, you know, it has to be paid through us, but essentially they're changes that, you know, he's trying to make upgrades to our building. We should be like, great, thanks.
Fine, but it should go back through the bidding process. You have just eliminated the other two vendors from having a chance to rebid on an extra scope of work.
Well, but as a
But it was
public.
his private thing.
For him to pay.
No, hell no. Just
But it's not our money
No.
that is, that these.
what we pay Half Acre is our money, which they're under our contract with us.
Look, I can't argue. You may be right. When the auditors come, I'll point it out, and if we're wrong, we'll
Yeah,
take a
see.
hit on it.
Well,
I don't know what else to say
what
to
you're
you.
doing is you're
But that-
eliminating the two local vendors that
Okay.
Did we
didn't have a
even know
chance
the
on
changes
the
were
change of the scope of work. Now, you may not see a big
We
deal with
wouldn't
it,
have authorized
but that vendor sees a big
We
deal
would
with
have
it.
never authorized putting that upgrade in.
He sees a big deal with it.
Change.
So y'all may not, but he sees a big deal that he didn't get a chance to rebid on a change of scope of work.
Okay.
Now, you can laugh all you want, but it's not funny to him.
Well, I
So,
just think maybe for future.
maybe they'll do it to you
we'll
someday.
Need Ken to look and see what our, if
See
there
if you
is
like.
anything that we've, you know, it's too late on
There are
that.
some, you know, we do
may not have
things,
even
we do
known
things that
about
don't
it.
normally exist.
I know.
Here we are building a building and we have a private vendor that comes in and wants to spend extra money in our building that we're building. We say we're not going to pay any more than the bid price.
Right.
That is our limits.
Right.
If you want to pay for the upgrades, pay for the upgrades. It's no different than if the painter comes in and we put some flat black or flat paint on and they want to change the color, no one's going to say a word.
And 100% of our public money went to the person who won the bid
It went to at the low bid
Right.
amount.
at the low bid.
At the low bid amount, and all the upgrades were paid for with someone else. All we did is verify that the upgrades were true and valid and moved on. If it's wrong, I admit before God and everybody, it's wrong, and we'll take a ding.
Okay.
But you admit that's not wrong. That's
Only
not
what our
wrong.
building.
You can't admit, you can't say that's wrong.
Let me tell you something,
It is wrong.
this is a $1.6 million
Go talk to the
building,
vendor.
and we're arguing about $10,000 or $15,000 worth of tile.
But let me ask you.
Give me a break.
Let me ask you.
Okay.
That they're paying for.
If Sean Oaken wanted to pay for it himself, would have
That
been,
is what happened.
would it have been nice if he had gone to the three vendors and said?
I don't know that he didn't do that.
But that's, you answered the question, but wouldn't it have been okay to go to the three
Yes.
vendors?
Yes.
Yes, it would have.
If he chose.
We have a contract with Half Acre that's what they're supposed to do, is go out and get bids. When the scope of work changed, then he should have went out and rebid it.
I don't feel like
If he's paying for it.
But the scope.
Because we have a contract to build that building, it's our
Well,
building.
the other man got the bid. The low bid made the change and he paid for it. So why should you have to bid again?
Okay.
I mean, I don't.
Because the scope of work changed, and we have a
I-
contract to build that building,
Jim had a
and Half Acre has rules. PFM is the one that picked the vendor and not the bidding
That's the law.
process.
I just don't understand it.
Okay.
That's
Donald,
just an opinion.
Point taken, and
Okay,
we
I'm done.
understand the vendor's concern
Yes.
as well.
Yeah, if I'm not supposed to take up for vendors, then tell me, and I'll leave it alone.
Okay, thank you,
giving my
Donald.
opinion.
Jim,
I have a
if we
question
can
for
get
our
some more,
council.
please.
Y'all listen.
Stay with me.
Before the meeting started, Horace passed out a DVD of a meeting he had yesterday with Continuum Labs. I don't know that this doesn't violate sunshine. And I took it in my hand and I've laid it there. I've not opened it. I need advice from council for all of us. Should we look at this thing or not?
Just don't respond.
Mine's right there.
I think it's a CD, so
Whatever it
the
is.
horse can tell us if he wants.
Well, I'll tell you exactly.
Is it been
I would
pirated?
just caution you against listening to it. I don't know. I'm one of those that doesn't like any communication outside the public meeting. It's IDA-related material, so my recommendation would be, don't listen to it. It's from one board member to the rest of you, and it's asking.
I move we adjourn.
I second.